What's up guys, welcome to Garage 23, and this is our 2005 Nissan Titan, which in the last episode we got running. Barely. So let's see if we can get it to run better. Alright, so one of the first things we're going to do is put an air filter on this thing, because not having an air filter can kind of throw off the ECU and usually make it stall and not idle and just run weird. Most master flow sensors, at least on Nissans, are calibrated to have some sort of resistance from a filter. So when they don't, they start running kind of weird. So this should be a nice, easy install. Just plop this guy on. And just tighten it down. The other thing we did was connect all of our vacuum hoses correctly. I went and got a piece of this hose from AutoZone because this is the only one we're actually missing, and there's like a huge vacuum leak coming through there. Other than that, we got the PCV, or no, valve cover breathers, and that's pretty much it. And then we also went and got this thing its own nice Optima battery. So this should have no trouble starting it. It has 1,000 cold cranking amps as opposed to our other Optima, which was barely starting it, which I think has like 700 or 600. All the other batteries we tried are like, I think 400 cranking amps at the most, and they weren't even like cutting it at all. So this thing shouldn't have any trouble starting now, except for the other issue that we had was, if you guys noticed before when we first got it running, it was having a hard time starting. And I checked the codes on the ECU, and that was a P0335. And that equates to a bad crank sensor. So I made a trip to the junkyard this morning, and we got a brand new crank sensor, and I plopped that in. So hopefully it actually just starts and runs now. Yeah, first try. All right, so that's a great sign. It starts really quickly now, and it also goes above 3,000 RPM, which was another issue I had before, is it would just hit 3,000 RPM and then just like you're hitting rev limiter, it would just stop right away. Also, if you try to put it in gear from park, it would just like immediately die, which I never heard of that symptom from a crank sensor, but I guess that's what it was. So now we can focus on making this thing pretty again. Okay, so first thing we gotta do to get this front end back together is start prepping our core support. And this thing goes together like a nice grilled cheese sandwich. You got your layers of radiator, your transmission cooler, your AC condenser, power steering cooler, airbag sensor, all kinds of stuff. And I tried ripping this out without the radiator last time, and that was kind of a pain, and that's because it's supposed to come out as like one whole unit. It was much easier once I figured that out when I got this off the one at the junkyard. I got a new one because this one is missing like this whole corner. So I was just gonna try and make this one work, but I checked the price lists from a couple of junkyards, and Pick Apart actually had the radiator support for like $40, and they didn't differentiate between car or truck. It was just $40 for core support. So I was like, I might as well. But Pick Apart is awesome, and we only paid 40 bucks for that. So, and with the fan shroud, I might add, because they didn't bother nickel and diming me like Pull and Save does. The only thing we need to still save from this is this airbag sensor thingy. I think it's an airbag sensor. It had a yellow plug on it. Okay, so next thing is going to be removing the transmission cooler, because this actually goes in between everything inside the core support. So hopefully we don't leak out too much fluid. I guess that'll work. So this goes in front of the radiator. Goes here, has these little feet on the bottom that slot into the bottom of the radiator. It has, oh god, it has these little legs on top where it's supposed to bolt into the radiator, but it's missing the nuts that are supposed to go here to hold it in place. So I'm gonna try to see if I can find some. So I found 2 nuts that'll fit in here. Actually, I found one, and I had to modify another one to fit, so. I never noticed damn near every 10mm nut has a flange on it. I only had one that didn't have a flange. And so I had to grind the flange off another one. Okay, so that's our transmission cooler and our AC condenser. Now our AC condenser has little feet that plop in right there. Now on the top, I was actually missing these, and I grabbed these from the junkyard this morning too. And now we need to find 2 more nuts that fit in there. I'll be back later.
Much later.
Okay, now we modified 2 more 10mm nuts. Now this flips around and it has little feet on the bottom that go in those bushings. And this guy's got these bigger studs that hold it in the support. And last but not least, our fan shroud. And it looks like our radiator is broken on this side, so it doesn't have a little slot for that foot, but 3 out of 4 is not bad. All right, and that's our completed core support. The only thing we're missing is the windshield washer reservoir thing, but I'm not too worried about that right now. Now we should be able to slot this in and try to bolt everything else up. Actually, we still need our little sensor thingy. I don't remember how this went. I'm gonna check our clip to see how that went, but for now I'm just gonna leave it there. Trying to get the AC condenser back in place, or the lines connected anyway. I think one of them got a little twisted though. Then I noticed these transmission cooler lines. They're supposed to go to the radiator and then to the block, but this person bypassed the radiator portion, which is fine with me. I don't like the fact that the transmission fluid goes through the radiator. Too risky in my opinion. Like, I'd rather keep all fluids completely separate. Also, kind of like the engine oil goes through that coolant block on the bottom of the oil pan. I don't like that either. We'll deal with this some other time. Now our power steering cooler goes behind this, and there's no room to like slide it back there. So I'm about to disconnect the lines and try not to spill too much fluid. Oh god. I'm bleeding. Yay.
気に入らない。
And this one I checked and it does go like that. So we need a 12 mil. Oh no, this is the plug I ran over. It's not a happy boys. Yeah, come on. Yeah, whatever. hood latch. Missing a bolt. I'm not gonna crank this down too hard because I need to line it up with the hood later. All right, now the radiator and transcooler, I guess. Okay, so instead of reusing all these hard lines that don't seem to match up anymore, I'm just gonna replace the whole deal with some rubber hose. So I got the bottom one replaced now, so we're gonna measure out and see how much of this we need to reach to the bottom port. All right, now we got both of our transmission lines nice and neat, tucked in by the radiator and connected to the ports down by the oil pan. So that's all set. Now you need to connect this to this, and that should be the last thing. Then just put the clamps on the radiator hoses, top and bottom, and fill it up with coolant. Man, and I thought I asked for like way extra than I needed, and we only have like a foot left over. Now we just have the radiator hose at the bottom, which I don't have a clamp for, but I need to go find one, I guess. All right, so far this thing seems like it's pretty easy to work on. Everything's really accessible. Unfortunately, I don't have a nice OEM clamp for this, but we're gonna have to settle for a cheapy worm gear clamp. And that's everything, I hope. Nope, no, it's not. It's not everything. This radiator support is not tightened down at all. Okay, now we're ready for our coolant. And this is concentrate, so we're gonna fill this up, or we're gonna dump all this in the radiator and then fill this back up with water and then dump that in there too. Usually I mix them in the bucket, but I can't find a bucket right now. All right, I think we got it pretty much full. Now we can turn the truck on, let it idle for a while and see if we can bleed some of the air out. Oh no. Crap.
Wang.
Too full. Sí, quema. All right, now let's see if we can make it look like a truck again. Bolt these headlights down. mistakes were made. Can you, can you give me the nuts from that pile over there? We went from a busted looking, non-running, blown up motor truck to a busted, ugly, not pretty running truck that moves under its own power. Now let's go see if it leaves us stranded somewhere. Okay, well it runs, sort of. The brakes barely do anything. It drives like a drunk hippo. And there's no mirror, so I can't see anything. Can't see anything behind me anyway. And the tire scrapes really bad on the fender, so anytime we turn, it's very loud. And other than that, it makes pretty good noises. Brake, stop! Jesus. Okay, we definitely need new brakes. That wheel bearing on the front right is really unhappy. I'm guessing because the double stack of spacers that the last guy had on there. It was like, I think a total of like 4 inches worth of spacers. So yeah, that's not very good for the health of your wheel bearings. Not that I was being brave on the Z with 2-inch wheel spacers. And this thing weighs a hell of a lot more than a Z. Oh, and I think we need an alignment because the steering wheel is pointing that way. But so far our temperature looks good. Our gas gauge works. Tack works, speed works. What else we got in here? Oil temperature? I think that's oil pressure, I'm not sure. Oil pressure looks good. How do I move the steering wheel? And our battery voltage looks good. So yeah, so far it's working pretty good. Definitely need to fix that wheel bearing though. That's the primary. That and the brakes, and then we could drive it a little further. But for now, I think that's gonna be it. Remember, always do your best and keep your hands on the wheel, and see you guys next time.
できなかった人はちゃんと復習するようにね。
I don't know Cletus. The vroom vroom no go. I just want it fixed so I can go get me some snackies.